Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Inspire Before We Expire show. I am your host, Terrell Sumter. Guys, I'm very grateful and thankful and graceful to see another day. That's never a promise. Before we start today's interview, y'all, I want you all to take some time. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And I want you to let go all the stress, all the anxiety, all the depression, everything that's holding you down. And I want you to receive of what's going to bring you up and help you rise. Now I want you to open. Guys, as we know, tomorrow is never promised, but today we are present. And today I have a very, very special guest on my show today. I got the time to chop it up with this guy right before we got onto this interview. He has a great spirit, great energy, and his specialty is knowing about what you may not know about yourself. And it's a good thing, guys. We all need that, honestly. He is the world's leading health, wealth, and human blueprint consultant, an author, a speaker, and who lives his mission of making the world a better place every single day. This gentleman can tell you exactly what is going on with your mind, body, and soul. He sees your blockages and gives you a blueprint to navigate and hit your target. He's also a sixth-generation Shaolin Temple descendant, renowned inspirational leader, and a wisdom seeker. Guys, I want to introduce you to my guy, Mr. Herman Siu. Herman, welcome to the Inspire Before We Expire today, man. So glad to have you.
Thank you. Honored to be here and humbled to be here. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Herm, I know it's your first time on the show today, man. So if you could just give us a background, man, of when your journey first started for you, man.
So maybe I'll share a little story. Would you like that?
Absolutely, of course.
Okay. So growing up, I was this little kid and something was always different about me where I could see things and I would show or point things. No one would understand what I'm seeing or what I'm pointing at, what I'm saying, what I'm doing, because it's like, where I was seeing things was from a whole different perspective or level of existence or consciousness, if you will. So growing up, my father used to practice a lot of martial arts. So I would see him train. And then I started to emulate, I started to copy. And he's like, we're not doing this. So what did he do? Instead of training me to punch or kick, instead he hands me a pen and says to me, you know what? Before I could ever train you in the art or in these ways, you must learn to control something that weighs next to nothing. So the very first thing I learned was discipline, and how I learned that discipline was through penmanship. Because now when I was able to learn that, then I was able to learn how to control the nothingness or the weightless, so that when you learn and you have the discipline and then you enact the form, then you put more momentum and speed, just like when you box or when you train, and then you go into impact for greater force. So it was all to make sure the form was correct. The form was correct, and we build the momentum, then the force and the impact is greater, so that you're able to master things faster. So that's one of the very first lessons I learned in my childhood. And that's something that I've always kept cherished inside, because whenever I see there's something that I would say is an encounter, or as an obstacle or an hurdle, it's like, let's go back to basics. Let's go back to the formula. Let's go back to getting the results that we know we can get.
All right, that's amazing, man. Honestly, and I thank you for sharing. Why do you think, like, especially in today's age, especially for our younger generation, man, who's just still learning, man, and things of that nature, why do you think it's really important to really be disciplined and really to take after those that we may truly be inspired by, that we know that it's going to help us move into the right direction?
So a lot of people use this term, leaving money on the table, which means you're doing things that are not generating or capitalizing on what's there. But I don't like to look at it as just money on the table. I like to look at it as resources on the table. So like time, like energy, focus, right? The power that you have within that is being dissipated or leaked because it's not necessarily harnessed. So I'll give an example. How many of us listening right now have a phone? How many of us listening are listening on that phone? How many of you don't go anywhere without that phone? How many hours of your day are on that phone, or your Xbox, or your PlayStation, or your TV, or whatever screen, or iPad, whatever you want to call it? To me, growing up, there was no distractions. It was either, here's a book, here's the training, here's the book, here's the training. So growing up, everybody would have all these video games, the Nintendo, all that. Herman was never allowed. Herman's like, here's the book, here's the training. Pick what you want to do. Do you want to read some more? No, let's go to training. You don't want to train anymore, you need a rest? Here's a book. Because you always have to develop the mind and the body. See, when you're doing things that are distractions, like the phone and the iPad, like all these things, the TV, all these distractions, you're not developing mind and body to merge. So that's why there's no more action. That's why you procrastinate. That's why you stay stuck. That's why things stay stagnant. Energy can't move. Energy doesn't know how to connect. And when it doesn't know how to connect, that's when you start to feel lost. And when you feel lost, that's when you can't find motivation or inspiration because you look for it outside, but that's where all the distractions are. You have to go back inside because that's where it all started, and that's where it will always lead you the right way. And you need someone to help take the key, open the key to unlock that, because a lot of people have shut that door now. And we have to shut the door on distractions now, not shut the door on opportunity, not shut the door on all the things that are so great in front of us that we could literally find a solution for. We need to come together and build these solutions to overcome all these obstacles in our life.
Right. So how do you block out the distractions though? How do you tame the noise, man, to continue to stay focused?
The only time I use my phone is for business. That is it. You do never see me use it for any form of social media, any form of like just specific nonsense. Like I have a team for that. That can be delegated, right? You never see me use it for just playing a game or anything like that. No, this is just strictly for business. Handle your business, focus on creating something, focus on building something else. Next part. A lot of people have a lot of noise around them. So picture noise to be, let's say you go outside and you're on the phone, but let's say it's in a crowded area. So you can't hear what the person's saying on the phone. That's the noise I'm talking about, where the noise could be an iPad, a phone, a TV, loud people in your environment, children screaming. All of this become noise. And the idea is to ensure that you always protect your peace. And the problem that humanity has is they no longer know how to have the peace because the noise has now invaded that peace. It's interfered and distracted the peace that it doesn't know what peace is anymore. And so that's why a lot of people have the depression and anxiety, because they've gone outside of the peace and the peace no longer knows how to connect back to you.
Yeah, I just feel peace by just listening to you, man, honestly. I'm gonna just be real, honestly. So tell us, man, how did you get into the space that you're in today, man? Like, what was that process like for you?
So I'll be completely open with you, okay? I don't tell a lot of people this, but I want to share this with you and maybe your audience, maybe they can relate to this. So,
oh, man.
Growing up, I always saw people in pain. And I was like, they don't have to keep doing that. Why do they keep doing the same mistakes and getting the wrong results? Why are they still doing the same things and feeling unhappy and suffering? I said, there has to be a solution. And so growing up, I had certain gifts. And I'm like, okay, here's the gifts. Here's the problem. Let's use and harness and refine and polish these gifts with the training so that when we encounter every single problem, we can help people get rid of these hurdles, obstacles, problems, so they no longer have to suffer. And so I've dedicated my life. Before my father even trained me how to punch, kick, anything, he made me make a pledge and a promise on my life. He said, in order before I ever show you a single punch, a single kick, a single anything, he says, you have to promise one thing. He says, you are supposed to use your gifts for the betterment of the world, the betterment of the families, and the betterment of yourself. So once you help the world, that can then help the family, people in your environment, and then that in turn brings the joy for yourself. So you're taking care of the world, the family, and yourself. So he's like, you have to promise to do it in that specific order all the time. So I say, I promise. And he said, now that you promise that, here's the next promise. He's like, in order for you to be trained in this way or the arts of this way, he's like, you have to promise that you will have the heart of a mother. And being the firstborn child in an Asian family, being the firstborn, there's huge responsibility, criticism through the roof, like standards that are so high. And so like, that was me, right? So my father held me to the highest account, right? If he saw you hanging around someone that he didn't approve of, done. Because it was going to be an interference or a distraction from the training that he gave me. And he didn't want me to waste all that training, all that wisdom that I now embody. And so when we train, he says, you know, in order to learn how to have a heart of a mother, you know what? How about we have a bird? We're going to take care of a bird. We're going to take care of some fish. We're going to take care of some turtles. We're going to take care of life itself. And if you can bring joy and literally train these animals that people basically feel that are untrainable, like a turtle, then I know that you have the heart of the mother because they respond to you. Then we can elevate the training and make sure the training could go to the next level. So that's how he would gauge whether or not I was ready for the next stage or for the next level. So he gave me the first 50%, and the next 50% is everything that I earned, in the blood, the sweat, and I don't say tears, but the skills. So the blood, sweat, and the skills. So you refine, you polish. And the whole idea of why this is so important, especially today's world, because if we don't have that discipline of, let's say, let's make sure the world is impactful first, let's make sure the families care for it, and then that brings us the joy to have the self-care. If we don't follow it in that, we only put ourselves first, and then maybe we think about the family, and then the world is third. It doesn't work that way, because a lot of times the world doesn't get taken care of, and a lot of people just focus on themselves, and then that's how you create an ego. And so that's why we must make sure that when we have the heart of the mother and we follow this exact process, ego is not at play. So it's just pure care and compassion at doing the right thing all the time.
That's powerful, man. Honestly, it seemed like your father was pretty much, really a mentor, a role model, and a guidance in your life or so. Was it a time that you ever feel like he was being really, really too hard, and and you felt like, man, oh man, I'm tired of this. You know how you see on certain movies or so like that, and
Yeah.
so you can tell us that time, and then how did you now see that he's right, and I'm now going to take in these disciplines and apply it to my life to help better myself and people around me.
So you know why I needed so much discipline was because I was so mischievous, because I was so growing up as a little kid. So it was called mischief. So you used to call me mischief. So everyone knew me as mischief. And so he's like, we need extra discipline, more discipline, extra discipline, more discipline. So when you were in that state, you don't think you need discipline. You just think you want to go have fun or you want to go explore. And to him, it was like, you can, but there must be some structure in it. Otherwise, there would be some calamity if there's no structure or understanding of what you are exploring. So it was to train me in that manner. And to every time you wanted something, your ego, even though you're a little kid, your ego was at play to fight because it was told no, or your ego was at play at fighting because it was shown that maybe it could be done in a different way. And the whole idea was to eradicate said ego so that when you grow up now into this world, you can have the heart of the mother so that you can care for every face and every place that you come by. So that everywhere you go, you can make an impact. So that everything that you come in contact with, it just sparks a light inside. That is why the ego cannot be in play. And that's what I had to learn the hard way. And that's what he made me learn all the time, was to get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. It doesn't belong. Because when it goes in as the main operating system, that is when we meet some misfortune and it becomes an illusion. And that illusion makes us think like, I help a lot of athletes. So I'll give an example.
Okay.
A lot of athletes think, oh, they got the contract, they're going to do this for the rest of their life. But they don't realize they're an expiring product, right? So that's why they have to make sure that they have to, like what your podcast is called, inspire before you expire, because they have to now figure out, how am I going to manage the finances? How am I going to manage my family? How am I going to manage my time? What is my 5-year goal? What's my 10-year goal? What's even my 1-month goal, 1-week goal? Like, what am I aiming for to get to make that 10-year happen? And so when we talk about that, it's like, number one, there can't be any interference. Second, there can't be any distractions. Third, they have to make sure that each and every day they're reaching maximum potential. And a lot of people, they tap out at potential too fast. And that's why their prime is shortened. And in order to extend said prime, they have to follow a very specific set of training to make sure that the prime can be extended so that their energy, their chi, could allow them to perform at a high level without injury, perform at a high level where they feel like they're almost like a god. Right? And so that's when we train athletes, is to maintain that level of sustenance that a lot of people don't have.
It's amazing, man, honestly. And I thank you for sharing that as well. So Shaolin Temple Descent, man, when did that come apart in your journey? Like I said, you're one of the first that I've met. So I'm interested in hearing. I'm sure the listeners are as well. So feel free to tap in.
So day one from being born, that's when it started.
Okay.
So I'll give an example. So diet was already fixed. So you have to eat certain things with the right fuel if you want to get the right outcome. You're not going to put garbage fuel in your exotic car and thinking it's going to still have the same performance that it was designed for. So you have to put the right fuel in to get the right fuel out. So it's like not just extreme physical training, but extreme mental training. I give an example. When we train, there's something called mapu, which means horse stance. So you would basically go down and almost like in a squatting position, very low, and you have to stand there for as long as you possibly can. And the training is for the body to get rid of all of its ego so it can then merge with the mind. So that when the mind gives a command, the body and the mind can merge to follow through, right? So that was one of the first trainings. And then once you train in that, once you've learned how to have a good foundation, only when you have that foundation can you then go into the next stance or to the next stance, or before you go into maybe follow through of how an execution is, or how a block is, or how to execute the kick. So when you do so, it is to understand it's not for violence, it's an exercise. Because when it's an exercise, you understand energy moves in your body through meridians, right? And it moves through a very specific way. So when you learn to match your breath and then you execute with the right action to the breath, it comes with a lot more, how do we say, force. And so in order to master that, like I said, you work on the form, then you go practice the form a little faster without the compromise enough said form. And then the impact and the force, just like a boxer. When you move, you shift. Your hip is the fulcrum. So when you move, it's like you work on the form, and then you increase the speed. And the greater the speed, they don't see it coming, the greater the force. But if you only go backwards and you only focus on brute force, and you think that you have speed, you will sacrifice the form. And that's what leads to injury or to weakness as to how the opponent can now overcome all the force that you think you have. And so that's what I train, is to make sure the foundation was never, ever going to shake, crack, break. Once you have that, then we move into other things. And when you move into other things, everything must be aligned: mind, body, and soul. So that when the mind, body, and soul are one, the mind and body merge, you are able to then feed and access the soul. And then once you're able to feed and access that soul, that is where a lot of people gain their so-called gift or enlightenment.
Okay. And when did entrepreneurship come about?
Always been there. I could never find myself just sitting there 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours in a cubicle behind a desk doing data entry or whatever you want to call that. Like, that was never me. So I always thought to myself, you know what? A lot of people use this term called mindset. And I have an issue with that because it means it's only set in one way. So I always wanted to be mind free. So that's what that's where I've always worked on, to make sure the mind was always free to see the truth versus set and just see things from a specific lens. And so when it's free, that is when I said, you know what, that's why entrepreneurship is so big. And that's why I created this company, was to help people get better and get results that they can't normally get in their normal day-to-day life because no one's showing them. A lot of people write books, a lot of people go on stage, a lot of people want to be motivational. But I don't like that word, motivation, because it gets you to a certain spot and then it's like it drops off, gets you to a certain spot, then it drops off. Where's the sustenance? So that's why I created this company, was to make sure there's sustenance, where if we train you how to build your mind, if we train you how to build your body, then the soul is able to be accessed. And when the soul is accessed, that's when you become superhuman. And so that's why I wanted to train in entrepreneurship and learn from the best and help the best, was because they're the ones that are going to change this world, not the ones that sit there going distraction, interference, more distraction. It's those that are willing to risk the most without looking for not necessarily just the financial reward, but the reward of what it is you just did for humanity, or the impact you just made for the world. Remember what I said? World, family, then us.
Yeah. And what has been the biggest, man, the biggest struggle you could say you went through along your journey, man, and how did you rise above it?
So I'll give a story. You want me to share this story? I'm in kindergarten. Remember I told you about the penmanship? So the teachers thought my parents were doing all my homework, because nobody in kindergarten at the time was ever even knew how to do printing, and yet Herman was doing penmanship better than the teacher. So the teacher thought my parents were doing all my homework. So she's like, here, do this. So I do it in front of her, and she sees that I'm able to do it right in front of her, and she's still in disbelief. So growing up, I was always like operate at such a high level that the average person cannot relate to, and always needed to learn more from people who are at higher and higher levels. And so when we go back to training and to discipline, then we take that to entrepreneurship, then we take that to, okay, what was your story? Well, the story was I was always there. It's just I didn't necessarily have the right tools or connections to make that happen. And now the world is no better time to make that happen with the tools and the connections, with all the things we have, internet, we can do calls like this. It's because growing up in my age, we didn't have these tools. And I'm like, if we had these tools growing up, so much more could have been done. Now you look at people with these tools, they have these tools, not as much is being done because of the interference and the distractions. So I will say this to you and to everyone listening. When I grew up, I never thought I was greater than anybody else. Never, ever, because ego was always out, never allowed. But growing up, I was always forced into being better. So if you made a mistake, be better. If you did something wrong, be better. If you understand this wasn't right, be better. And you always never want to repeat the same mistake twice. Otherwise, it then becomes a sad habit. And so that's why when I grew up, I was never allowed to repeat the same mistake. Okay, you broke a plate. Okay, fine. Don't break another one. You did this, you hurt someone. Don't do that again, right? You always have to learn from the experiences. It doesn't mean that you don't experience, but you have to learn from your experiences. And the one thing of where a lot of people get stuck, it's always the first step is the hardest. It's always the first step to begin. It's always the first step to build that form, right? So we have to take that first step. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to jump so that once we jump, we're able to take that step so that we can start developing us, getting to know us. And then once we apply the right formulas, then we use the right formula for the right time and the right place in our life, we get results.
What are some formulas you've implemented into your life that has helped you become who you are today?
Okay, so this is what I use for athletes, business, whatever. So it's my pet rule. So everyone loves pets. Well, this is my pet. Okay. My P is my patience, that I have to understand like not everybody's going to be on my level. Not everybody's going to get everything that way I do. Not everybody's going to see the thing that I may see. So I must be patient to fully help them understand so that they can understand me. Understood? Patience.
Understood.
Endurance, that's the E. It's the endurance that you have to make sure that you're the first one in, last one out. The endurance says you're always there. You're always putting in the effort. You're always making sure the effort is never questioned. You're always making sure that when the effort is never questioned, it is to get the experience 10,000 times over and over so you can master the skill. Then from the endurance, it's called tolerance, that every time you fall down, every time there's a mistake, every time you feel like giving up, every time that there's someone talking you out of this, the voice in your head tells you you need to lay off, or maybe we take a break. The tolerance says we're going to keep getting back up, and it doesn't matter how many times we fall, we are never going to stay down. We're always going to get back up and keep moving.
I love that, man. That's amazing. That's amazing. Patience, endurance, and tolerance. That's something we all need to really, really practice every day or so like that. Herman, man, I'm gonna be real. You seem like God has always been present. Do you ever get angry, man? Do you ever let anything like, cause you just, I mean, just, do you ever like, when was that moment that you felt as like, man, like something had ticked you off or something went wrong, but you learned this is not the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. Like take us back
Okay.
to that moment.
So picture me playing sports. So that's how I was able to connect to people, because I didn't have anywhere else to connect to people. So growing up, I was actually born in the Caribbean. So growing up, I was always the only Asian kid in the entire neighborhood, the only Asian kid. Everyone else around me was Jamaican, African, from St. Lucia, from Barbados. Everyone was from the islands, okay? So I was born in the islands. So when I was there, I was like, I was always the one that people thought they could pick on. And I was like, something's wrong here, because I didn't play the sports that they were playing. So I come to Canada now and I'm like, you know what? We got to change that. I don't want to be people that just want to play piano and just violin. I need to be in the sports, because that's where I connect and that's where I can build the leadership skills for if I wanted to go start my own company. And so I did so. And so we started with, let's say, badminton, then ping pong, then we elevated to soccer, then hockey, and then Herman found basketball. And then that's when Herman started to really connect with it. He was like, you know what? This is the game. This is my game. So growing up, Because remember I told you when we trained foundation, like in the horse stance, it was never to jump. It was to be as low as possible and maintain that stance. So I was very grounded. And then in basketball, you have to run and jump the highest. So my vertical was not even this because I was so focused on just being foundation, foundation. So my first time I went to play, I got schooled big time. I was like, I didn't jump the way these guys were jumping. I was like, hey, if this guy can do it, I can do it. I dedicated my entire summer to getting better. But you know what? On the way there, you have your bumps, you have your bruises, you got your scars, you got your elbows to the face, you got a tooth that maybe was knocked out, you got all these things. And so anybody that would make you upset inside, and it made me upset inside. I'm going to be real with you. Of course, it'll make anyone upset inside. But then it was because once you have to learn, the greatest lesson in that moment was when you feel pain, it is weakness leaving your body. The reason why you're in pain that moment is because there's a weakness and it has to escape, it has to leave. And that's why when you recover, you have to make sure that you build it stronger so that that area no longer feels weakness and then it will no longer feel pain. And so when you go through it, it was like you had to figure out all these weak areas, but you were weak because it's your first time playing, so you're getting schooled. So I dedicated my entire summer. And so one thing I had to learn to undo or unlearn. So growing up, you learn something called trash talk, right? So Herman used to learn to trash talk just a little bit. And my father heard me and he was like, hey, 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 this is not the training. And so he was like, if you're gonna play, we're gonna have to stop this trash talk. So the moment that I stopped the trash talk was the moment I was no longer getting those same injuries that I did. Do you understand what I mean? Because I was doing things out of the wrong intent for developing maybe an ego side versus the heart of the mother side, like I mentioned. And so because of that, I was starting to deviate a little bit. And so my father's like, nope, get back on track. And it was when I got back on track, that is when my vertical went above 40 inches. That is when I can outrun just about anybody. Doesn't matter skin color, doesn't matter culture, could outrun anyone. And the reason being, when I used to play, the shortest guy was me. Everyone else was 6'6", 6'5", 7'2". I was playing with all these guys. And the reason why I earned the respect was because I could outrun them, outjump them, and I was able to understand them. Like I didn't disrespect them. I didn't need to trash talk them. I didn't need to disrespect where they came from or how they shoot the ball or how they run. I had to learn how to acclimate and lead them. So come pickup time, you would think they would choose the 7'2" guy or the 6'11" guy first. They picked me first because the reason being, they need someone to be the backbone. So once you have the backbone, there's someone that learns how to bring out the best in you, bring out the best in this person, bring out the best person on defense who doesn't play defense, bring out the best in the person who's doubting their jump shot, bring out the best so that when you become the source of that, everybody wants just a little bit more of that because it is not so much the tangibles that you're bringing to the court, it's the intangibles that you brought that made them even greater, that maximize their potential, maximize the results to win the game, to win the championship.
I love it, man. Honestly, I think that, like you say, you know, when we on the court and whatever we may be participating in, and we talking and that's not the key. The key is being humble, right? And that's something you share a lot about as well. So take this into that, man, the importance of really being humble. Like, you know, if you could share with those who may not understand that because they feel like they got to be loud every time. But we knew sometimes the loudest in the room is usually the weakest. So take us into really, man, the importance of why you've implemented this into your life and it has helped you throughout your life professionally and also personal as well.
Okay. So in terms of humility or humbleness, the reason why that's so important is because you have to count your blessings. It's when you are so loud, you are so distracted, you want to flaunt, you want to beat your chest and show off, or you want to make everyone see you. That is not when you are at peace. That is when you are chasing attention, right? And so when you're humble, you count your blessings. You don't need the show. You don't need the attention. You don't need people to give you flattery or flattered words. You just need to make sure you stay confident and make sure you're working at yourself 10,000 times. Did I do this? 10,000 times did I do this? You want to refine and refine this vessel. You want to make sure you become a professional human. that is what you want to do. That's why humility is so important. It's because life is always going to teach us a lesson, and we must be humble to receive that lesson so that we become better and better. And then that builds our character, and that character then builds our reputation, and that reputation allows us to bring more value to the marketplace, to the world, to the family. But in order to do so, we must count our blessings. We must make sure that if we are very appreciative of said blessings, then we are worthy of more blessings. But if we take it for granted, and let's say we're an athlete that spent all the money on the first contract, didn't count their blessings, what happens when the first injury comes? And maybe it's a detrimental injury that takes 2 years to recover, and you may never become the same. You didn't count your blessings, what happens? Then there's not much blessings left over. So we must make sure, if we're humble, let's be a little lean, let's be a little smarter, let's be a little wiser with all our blessings that we have, and let's start planting seeds to grow more blessings and help the world, help our family, and then that in turn is able to help us.
Yes, absolutely. And what was that one time, you speak of athletes a lot, what was that one time you worked with a specific athlete, whether in football, basketball, you name it, that they just wasn't counting their blessings, they was actually blocking their blessings, and then you came into their path, and it took a process, but then they figured they finally got it, and they finally started to, win not only on the outside, but an inside as well. So take us into that time.
So I helped the pitcher, and they got drafted, and then they got a contract, I believe, with the Boston Red Sox. So that's for baseball. So this pitcher had 2 surgeries on the shoulder.
Okay.
So it was torn labrum, very injured. Doctor says they may never be able to hit the fastball ever again, which is, I believe, about 100 miles an hour or just under that. So they can really throw. So he found me, and he's like, I need help. So I said, walk me through your regimen, walk me through your routine, walk me through your nutrition, walk me through every single moment of every day. And he was a little shy at first. And he's like, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? You do it every day. And it's because he's so distracted. The phone, the phone, the phone, the phone. I said, first off, if it's not for business, it's got to go. How is this training? Is this making you a better pitcher? Is this making you smarter, wiser? Does it make you sharper? No. So it's got to go. So we got rid of that. Then we worked on his nutrition, made sure everything he had was lean, was right to bring the right fuel for the right vessel, right vehicle. Then we worked on his training regimen. His coaches used to tell him right after he finished a game, then he should go train. And I said, hold up, red flag. I said, so after you just finished pitching the whole time, that is when you're supposed to go train? I said, that's when the muscle needs to rest. You just put yourself out so much, and then if you train, you put yourself more at risk. He says, that's how I got injured. I said, well, how about we make some changes? So we worked him out to say, okay, this is the time you get up. This is the time we train. This is the time you eat. This is how much you need to be eating. This is how much you should be focused on mentally as to how much of your battery you're using within this time out of the 100% that you rested. When you finish that, this is how much you need to have in reserve so that you can go for your pregame. This is how much has to be ready for your real game. This is how much has to be ready for your recovery after the game. This is what you must do to prepare for when you go to sleep at night for your sunset. So he was managing his battery mentally, and then the body was able to follow through physically. And he didn't have that before. Before he was going all out, all out, all out, and there's not much left. And so when he goes up the next day, body needs to recover, but he has to go training again. So it's overworking, not enough rest. And then that's when the body says we're weak. Weakness has to leave the body. So you got hurt. And so now they're a pitcher. I believe they are a great fast pitcher. I haven't spoken to him in a few years, but he is very, very grateful because he's like, you did for me what nobody else could do, which was get me to where I wanted to be. And that's just one example. We could go into NBA, NHL, anything you want to go into, but each sport follows very similar fundamentals. It's just applied in a different manner, right?
Let's go into NFL actually, or so like that, because we know there's always injuries when it comes to football. I was a former athlete myself. Yeah. So take us in a time maybe when you work with one specific athlete who may be well known, or so like that, or may not be, and just take us like how the relationship formed and through the process of helping him. Maybe he was kind of hard-headed and then really listened to you and implemented it into his life, and now he's much stronger and healthy and now playing the best at his game.
So I just have to do what's right, which means like not necessarily like name drop to show off or anything like that, but I'll give you an example, okay?
Gotcha.
So there's a guy running back at the time, was extremely fast, but he says, you know what? I feel like I'm not running fast enough. He was actually starting to slow down, but he's supposed to be entering the prime. He's supposed to be speeding up or maintaining a certain speed. So running back, it's like if you can't run and you can't outrun the competition, then they got you. Then they're going to replace you because they need to make sure that you can outrun the competition so that you can receive, correct? So you want to receive. Now the gentleman, he did not realize the interference that he had was the mother was always talking negative to him, like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? The wife was constantly barking in his head, in his ear. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? The children were very hard on him. The father was very, very disrespectful. So all of that put weight, put weight, put weight, put weight, put weight. So he had so much of that noise or weight on him. So when it came time now to run free, the mind was set on those issues and it wasn't free. So he couldn't run free. So he was starting to slow down and slow down and slow down. So in order to fix that, we had to say, you know what? We have to reduce all the weight so we can increase the aerodynamics. So what we did was we looked at his entire life and cut all the noise out, from the voices to who's allowed in the environment to who's not allowed in the environment, what he had to do for pregame, what he had to do for game day, what he did for the game, pregame, what he did for postgame, went through all of this stuff so that by the time he was finished, it was like all he was doing was getting faster, getting just a little faster, just getting just a little faster, a little clearer. All of a sudden, he was able to deke out just a little faster. And you see, one thing a lot of guys don't realize what they're doing, especially in the NFL, is in order to be the number one running back, you have to have something called misdirection. Do you know what that word means?
Tell us.
Misdirection means you show or you act like you're going to go one way and then you completely go the other way full steam, is to throw the competition off. So he didn't have the best misdirection. He just knew how to run. So I said, you can run fast, but if you can't throw the competition off, they're just going to read you every single time. So we had to train in misdirection. Everything is energy. So we had to learn, okay, if this person is going to chase you, what is their step? What is their breathing pattern? What is their strength on when they go for their burst, when they chase, when they get the first step on you, when they're chasing you? You have to make sure yours is greater, grander, faster. And so I would train them on how to read someone's breath, how to train, how to read the muscles of the habit, how to study your competition, how to study what it is you're going to do in that moment, how to study yourself to say, this is my breath to match their breath. Does it mean that mine's here or is it down there? Is it at the even? Then maybe I don't have an advantage. The whole idea is to gain that little bit of advantage legally so that you can then understand the competition. And the greater you have understanding, the greater your control. The greater your control, the more likely your outcome. And so when we train this way, he got faster. But it wasn't that he was necessarily running different. All we changed was the environment that he was in mentally, physically, and spiritually, so that these things would stop interfering with him and adding weight, adding burden, adding baggage. And so when we got rid of that baggage, he was able to increase the speed, add the misdirection, and all of a sudden he got 2-3 steps ahead of the competition that couldn't catch him. Do you feel me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Imagine if I were to show you, like actually in person versus just conceptually what we're discussing, you would see exactly the power of that.
Wow, man. I mean, you're gifted, man. You're truly, truly gifted. How do you stay present with this gift? Because, and also just tap into, as well as just telling us the specialty of really telling them, knowing about people that they may not know that you know about them. Like, just let us know all that. That'd be awesome.
So, very young age, I always had this gift, okay? And once my father really saw that I had this gift, remember I said, we discipline. So
yeah.
Number one thing was to never abuse it or do wrong by others with it. Otherwise, you would lose your gift. That was the number one rule. So that's why he forced me to make pledges. And so I made those pledges. And then now, in today's world, I can see things the average human cannot. For instance, let's say you're a fast runner, and let's say you were a former athlete yourself. Okay, that's great. But can anyone tell you why you're like that in this lifetime, as to why you came back with certain gifts in this lifetime? or why is it that you had certain gifts in the past lifetime, or what the past was as to what allowed you to come into this lifetime to have said gifts. See, people can't see that. Or what is it, the bloodline that runs through your veins that allows you to maximize these gifts so that you can then outdo the competition? Like, are you living up to the same gifts? Are you unlocking that DNA, that energetic cellular level to unlock it so that the cell can perform exactly what you want? A lot of people can't see that. A lot of people can't see what the future holds. A lot of people can't see what's going to happen in the future if things are not fixed or changed now. And so that's why growing up, a lot of people used to call it like an oracle, which means the ability to see things that the others can't. So that's what they used to call me. And when I used to train, my Chinese nickname was called Mo Ying, which means no shadow, because I move too fast, that you don't leave a shadow. So that's when I trained, was to make sure that there is no shadow left behind. So that's how you increase the speed. That's how you increase the speed. And then the greater the speed, the greater the impact of the force. And so when I train, I do my best to bring as much value to the faces and the places. And I don't want to give too much away, but I will share this.
It's all good.
I'll share this.
Hey, Herman, hold on for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This will get played up.
Yeah. We're good? Okay. So I've been trained to see energy. So if everything is energy, when we look at an athlete, for example, where's the source they're drawing the energy from? Where's the source that they can maximize that energy? Where's the source that could lead to an injury if they continue to do it the wrong way? So I'm able to see energy, then identify what are some of the issues for that injury, or what are some of the issues as to the recovery, what are some of the issues as to why you're not living up to the fullest potential. Why is this athlete that went first overall not living up to first overall? What happened when they hit the big game or hit the real game? And so I'm able to see energy, and a lot of people are very taken back by that because they can't see it themselves and they don't think it's real. And then when I go in and I help an athlete or help a company or help a person, it is where I'm giving them the experience to show them that yes, it's real, because I can identify all the weaknesses. Then we can help make sure that you don't go down that road. We build the strengths. And when we go through this exercise of energy, a lot of people are always taken back and speechless because they never knew something like that is even capable or possible.
It is powerful, man. For you just to tell them, they're like, how? I don't even know this, So I thank you for sharing that, man. Honestly, I wanted to ask you, man, what is your secret ingredient to growth?
Secret ingredient to growth?
Yes.
No days off. Because there is no hack, there is no shortcut, there is no easy way for hard work. You got to put in the work, you got to put in the effort every single day. That's why I said endurance, first in, last out. You got to make sure that you're always putting that endurance, you're always being humble, like as if you were a rookie, to gain as much wisdom and be a sponge of the veterans or those that came before you, so that you could be at the best possible person or vessel at what you do. And a lot of people don't have the humility. They think they're first overall, second overall, they got this, right? Got all the fame, got the contract, shiny new contract now. And then what happens? Goes to the head, then this stops performing, right? Or this doesn't perform at the level that these guys and veterans know what it takes. And so that's why I said when the humility is there, you have to understand there are no days off. Because you look at the great ones, they, even though they stop playing, there's still no days off, because they're instilling that now in their family. They're instilling the work ethic of what it takes to be a champion. They're instilling it to what to be legendary. And those that take days off, those that don't understand greatness, they're the ones that whittle away very quickly. And maybe they're an all-star, but they're not a superstar. And for a real superstar, they're like the glue. They're the ones that make everyone around them better and are willing to put their neck on the line, right? They're willing to put accountability up front. They're willing to take responsibility and carry that on their shoulders, because they understand it's a team game, it's a team effort, and we all have to be on the same page to reach the promised land known as a championship.
You all about creating a positive movement, man, in the right direction, and helping humanity become aware of their true nature. Why is that so much of a responsibility you feel like in your life?
Because being the firstborn in my culture, and if you can even don't even take my word for it, there was an actual lineage in China with my surname called the Siu lineage, and that's the birthplace of martial arts. And so I have so much responsibility that they carry forth, that they carry forth, that they bestow, 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 so that I am here today, that I can have these gifts because of what they have done before and what they have trained in. So that when I have learned the same training, I'm able to expand and allow these gifts to then be shared to the world, allow these gifts to then help the world, allow these gifts to make a difference in the world, right? Like I said, do good by it, not to do wrong by people with it. And so that's why if we are able to unlock our gifts, that would be a great thing. But the thing is, not a lot of people are showing us how to do that. I've been trained in how to do that. And that's what I do every day for everybody. Show you how to develop and bring that out so you can live up to become that professional human. Don't just be a professional athlete. Don't just be a professional doctor or engineer. Be a professional human in every way. How you cook, how you think, how you walk, how you talk, how you help your family, how you are there as a father, as a son. Be a professional in every single manner of life. And that is true mastery. And it is that true mastery that allows you to be elevated above any competition.
Mm. So you don't see the competition.
Not at all. The competition is this, us,
Right.
ourselves.
What would you say the greatest advice you've ever received?
Greatest advice? Well, it's in Chinese, so let me translate. So it is Siu Sum Sei Dak Man Min Xun. So that means to be cautious of every step before you take it, be smart in every step before you take it, but never stop taking the step. Do you understand? So
Yes.
it doesn't mean that you go in blindly. It just means, okay, I'm not going to just be analytical and sit here, but I'm going to just take my time, be smart about it, make the right necessary steps, make the right necessary moves, so that if it's for a business now, then I'm not going to burn through all my capital, right, in the first month or the first day. Or if it's an athlete now, I'm not going to burn through all of the so-called blessings that I now have, or all the so-called conveniences or privileges of being an athlete that they have access to. Or being a person, I'm not going to burn through all of my contacts or all of my connections or the bridges that I have built. And so that's why I say it's good to be cautious before you take the step, but never stop taking the step. That's why you always have to make the first step. That's leadership. They're willing to
Yeah.
take the first step first while everybody else is watching. Oh, who's going first? Who's going first? Right? No one wants to go first, but the leader says, you know what? Let me go first, because that's when I learn the most about myself to see what I need to do that's necessary to get to the level that's the goal or the target.
Mm. Love that, man. Taking that first step. Yes, indeed, indeed. And I want you to take us into the time and moment. I believe it was some months ago about a conference that you can keynoted, Awake Your True Potential. A phrase you said was school want workers, not leaders. In school, they just tell enough just so they can kill your creativity. I never heard that before. So please elaborate and share that with the audience today.
Okay. So remember how we were discussing mindset?
Yes.
So when you have a child, and say you're the child, everyone was the child, years 0 to 5, you're the most creative. You find out every single way how to negotiate. You learn negotiation skills that no one taught you. You know you want something, you know how to ask for it. You're not shy. You want to do something, sing, dance, do that. You don't ask, you just want to do it. You just say what you want to do. But as soon as you start entering and you finish the 5 years old and you go to the 5 to the 7, that is when the mind starts to develop. And that is when you get introduced to, say, kindergarten. You get introduced to a school system. You get introduced to systems other than school system. And so things start to, can't do this, can't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And then the mind, right on the crown of the head, between years 0 to 7, it's soft. But as soon as it hits around 5 to 7, that is when it starts to harden and harden and harden. And that is when, if the child doesn't have the right nourishment or nurturement, that they just go straight into the system, and this has sealed, then the mind has started to set already at that young age. And that is when, if they were a drama queen at year 4 and the parents just let them be the drama queen, by the time they hit 7, it'll be a little more difficult to get the drama queen out or to change, because it has now hardened. So the mind should never be set. The mind needs to be free. And so when we talk about the school system, it is designed specifically for workers. It's designed to be like a manufacturing processing plant of what you go through to come out. Okay, you go do this, you do kindergarten, you go through elementary, you go through high school, you go through postgraduate after in college, you do all that, then you're supposed to get a job, and then oops, you have a kid, then oops, you need a house, then oops, you need this, oops, you need that. And it's like it continues to fuel what they know as economy, as opposed to, you know what? Forget about kids, forget about house, forget about all that. What was the world? Remember the first part, the world. What does the world need? Well, the world needs no oil in the oceans, no plastic in the oceans. The world needs to protect the species that are on this planet. The world needs to make sure that the planet can sustain itself with the amount of population on this planet. How about we start with some of those issues? Then let's look at the family. What does my family need? What are some of the issues that my family have a problem with or other people's families have? Then let's solve those issues. Then what are the issues I go through? Let's solve those issues and let's think big. So there's I believe a guy or a young kid, I think he was only 16 years old in Africa, and his village had no water. So they had to travel, I think, 5 miles one way to get water. And this kid developed and learned and studied offline how to get water just from plain air. And so he created the contraption so that the entire village can get water, so that no one had to go travel those 5 miles anymore. Why? Because there was no school. So there was nothing to be set, but yet his mind was free and he was able to create and invent something that nobody else in the village could, because all of their minds have already been set.
It's powerful.
Don't be
Wow.
set, be free.
Be free.
Learn how to be free. Get training to be free. Get training to free yourself so that you are no longer stuck. Can you imagine you're an athlete, let's say running back, and you have to go carry 10 tons of bricks behind you before you can run to catch the ball. So you're running and you got 10 tons of bricks. Can you go catch it and run full speed? No, not at all. So let's say maybe nine tons. Okay, maybe just a little faster, maybe 8 tons, maybe just a little faster. But how about we drop all the baggage and all the things that have interfered and distracted us, so we just get to pure performance. It is the pure performance that we are after, the results. And it's if we can sustain those results, we increase our value in the marketplace. We increase our value in the marketplace, the reputation goes through the roof, and your name now becomes a household name. And when your name becomes a household name, that leads to brand deals, sponsorships, other things, open new doors, and it allows you now to build that reputation to then help the world, help the families, so that you are then helping yourself by giving back and allowing yourself to be nurtured and nourished for all the things that you do for the world.
And it's a two-part question here, man. What are you truly, truly dedicated right now at this time of your point of your life? And what are you mostly proud of?
Okay, so I'm truly dedicated to helping as many souls as possible. Doesn't matter what walk of life, as many souls as possible. And I don't like the word proud because that's more fueling the ego. But what I am happy about, or what I'm fulfilled about, is the fact that these skills and these gifts have been able to be nourished, maintained, and polished to this point in life. And all these skills and gifts are able to then be given and shared to the world. And that is something that I live by. That is something I've worked so diligently on to make sure that it's polished, so that it can then be related in the English language, so that people could then understand. If it was all in Chinese, you wouldn't understand. If you had to read subtitles on what we were discussing, it wouldn't make an impact. But because I'm speaking the same language, it can hit home just a little stronger, a little faster.
Indeed. Indeed. Hey, man, I wanted to ask this as well. Like, as a young kid, man, maybe young Asian kid, growing up, how you grew up in a place where you was the only, amongst other cultures or so like that. And what would they called you? He called you like, Herman, hey man, I've been following your journey for some time now. You truly, truly inspire me, man. I just needed some advice, man. I've been feeling down. I've been feeling depressed. My father, he wants me to be disciplined, but I just don't know how. He wants me to be focused. He wants me to be stronger, and just to be more humble. What would you exactly say to that kid right there?
They need training. Just like any athlete, just like anything you do in life, you need training. And so a good way to start with training is that's when I get like on a call with someone, or that's when I meet with someone, or that's when I'm able to have a discussion with someone as to where they start. Like, because remember, everyone learns differently. everyone sees things from a different lens sometimes, right? And so every single person's maybe from a different culture, or within that culture, they have sub habits in that culture. So everyone learns differently or acclimates differently. So once we get on that I would say call or that training like this, then we're able to define, okay, I'm able to see what the person has, what they don't have, what's a block, what's not a block. And then we go through like a whole list. And then from that, then we dedicate some training as to what to do to get out of that. Do you understand?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Because you don't do the same training from a linebacker to a running back, because the linebacker has a very different set of training to be a
Mm-hmm.
rock, whereas the running back is to be as free as the wind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have very different training regimens. So that's why every person, depending on who they are, has to have like this assessment, so to speak, so that then we can define as to what's the best training to get the maximum results.
Right. Okay. Awesome. It's amazing. And what would you say, man, as we know along our journey, it's never peaches and cream, you know,
Yeah.
there's always some roadblocks and there's always some things that we go through in life that put us at a very low place. When would you say you hit rock bottom and a point in your life, and how did you be able to overcome and just stand tall to kind of helping you be this healthy individual you are today?
So I'm going to say a phrase, and this is something you may want to let it hit home because it's something that I learned the hard way. So most people follow this set of, how do we say, experience, which means not until they're at their lowest point in life are they open to the greatest change, which means they have to completely fall, break down, lose everything before they have their wake up call, or before they have the energy to move or take that first step that they should have done 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So don't let things get to the worst state where you are at your worst state before you're open to the greatest change. That is something I learned, where maybe I was overworking myself, overtraining myself, overdoing it like all the time, train. Instead of 2 days, it was 3 days. Instead of eating a certain amount, it was double the amount because of the amount of fuel I was using. So all of that, I mean, it was too much. And you have to know your limit as to what was too much, right? Because if not, then you will have burnout. And then if
Yeah.
you have burnout, then it's a longer recovery time, or maybe it's maybe you don't fully recover from the mental aspect.
Yeah.
So these are some things we have to take into account. And that's what I had to learn, was not to burn out, because with my efficiency and my gifts, I had to know what my limit was without the illusion of thinking that I could keep going and keep going and keep going. I had to know when there was a time to take a rest, to take a break, to go to that pit stop, to recover just a little bit today so that you can then start again and start again. So the idea was to learn those limits, right? But I didn't want to hit myself to go to the lowest point before I was open to greatest change. And some people, they wait till things get so bad before they're open to the greatest change to cross that bridge. And if it was my advice, it would say, don't do that part. How about we just get to the change early enough so that we don't fail?
Right on, right on. I was looking at one of your videos, man, on your series on YouTube, and I was looking at the time and money or so like that. So take us back into that time right there, man, because I think that's an important thing to really bring up too in this conversation.
Okay, so in terms of time, you know that it is something that we can't go buy more of. You have set amounts, like once let's say you're 30, you can't go pay cash and get back to your 20s, right? Once you're in the 40s, you can't go pay cash and say magically in your teenage years. So that is a commodity that is not necessarily that you can go buy more of, in terms of, well, you can buy more of it, but you can't go back into the past. So time itself is something that you have to respect. You have to make every moment count. And not just the time that's on the clock or on the watch, or no, I'm not talking that. I'm talking, what are you doing with every breath? I'm talking moments. Do you know that is how time is expressed? That's why
Mm,
people are on their phones taking this every time, taking shots, selfies everywhere, because it's the moment to capture that point of time. So time itself is not necessarily the important part. It's the moment that allows you to experience that time as a timeline. So when you go on your phone and you go back to your images, they have a timeline of when this photo was taken, when you went on this trip, what happened at this time of your life. So you create a timeline. So that's how you express it. So you have to make sure you maximize that time, right? In moments. You create better memories and moments with those you love and those you care about, right? So that they can then propagate that, spread that, share that. Then in terms of money, we have to understand you cannot just think of money as money itself, because money has now become the modern day religion. That's all people chase, that's all people look at, that's all people desire for or lust for. It has been an illusion now, that they think that that's the only thing that matters in the world. So the piece of paper that you have that you claim that is money, so it's a $10 what, Terrell? It's a $10 what? What's it called?
$10 bill.
$100
bill.
So last time I checked, a bill wasn't an asset, a bill was a liability, which means that it is called debt.
Yeah.
You understand me? So that means that because of the Treasury and the US State Treasury, it is all debt. It's the piece of paper that you have is not even worth what it is, the number that was written on it. So that's why you have to understand, don't let that become your slave. Don't let debt become your slave. That is the new slavery. Do you understand me? So don't let that become the slavery. You have to be free. Like I said, the mind cannot be set. The mind has to be free so that it doesn't fall under those constrictions. So when we talk about money, don't let it be a religion. Understand it's a value exchange. Let's say you're the athlete. You provided your services as an athlete, so they exchange value for you, risking your health, your call it. So you risk the value. So you got value. So let's say you're in a business. You risk the time, you risk your energy, you risk years of your life. So value in exchange. But you have to think of value exchange in greater terms. That don't just exchange just time for more money, because you will run out of time and there will never be enough money. So we have to maximize leverage time so that we can then have more value, so that we can then plant more seeds of that value into different areas. Maybe it's real estate, maybe it's the stock exchange, maybe whatever it is. The idea is you plant enough seeds in things that you believe in and things that you know that can be used as a vehicle to leverage and bring in more wealth, so that your time is worth just a little bit more. Do you understand? Right? So don't allow money to own you. Make sure you understand it so you can control it. Otherwise, if you don't understand it and you cannot control it, it will control you. So you see the brand new phone come out, gotta go get that. You see this come out, gotta go get that. Robbing you of all your wealth, putting you more in debt when you need the capital. You need the capital to go invest in a partnership. You need the capital to go invest in something that is going to elevate your family's life. So you have to make sure you stop doing the things that are robbing you of getting ahead. Stop doing the things that are robbing you of your time, energy, and resources.
It's interesting, man, honestly. But it does help a lot, so like that. I know that you also, man, had the book, The Hero in You. I just love the title. And I know that Two People was also truly that you was able to train, mentor, and guide, was truly inspired by the story or so like that. So when did this book come about? And, what did you really learn from just writing a book? And what was you happy about the whole experience?
So the book was basically an idea around 2017. Then 2018 was when it was enacted, came out in 2019, and now we're in 2020. But the reasoning for the book was because I needed to give the world a formula. No one is giving you the exact formula or the human blueprint. So this is one of the few blueprints that I share publicly, because the rest are for high performance. So this formula goes like this, okay, Terrell? Goes like this. Your belief becomes your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions then become your habits. Your habits then become your virtue. Your virtue then becomes your destiny. So let me explain. When we engineer this formula, it goes beliefs. If you don't believe in yourself that you can run that time, you can do this time, you can do that, you can do this, you don't believe in it, it will not get done. If you don't believe that you are special, if you don't believe how incredible you are, you may not fully live up to your full potential. If you don't believe in someone, you will close the door to that person. If you don't believe they're telling you the truth, you will close the door. Belief is the most important thing, because once you lose that, relationship falls apart, trust falls apart, the communication falls apart, the bridge falls apart. So belief is the number one thing. The greater the belief, then now that is the main operating system. So that when you have thoughts, you have 70,000 plus in a day. If they don't have a commander or a general, then they run wild and they will control you. So we need the commander in general, known as the belief. So that when we have 70,000 thoughts, that's your army. I'm going to send a thought out here today to say, you know what? Can I start this company or business? I'm going to send another thought out here to see, can I get the funding for that business? I'm going to send a thought out here. Can I run faster? Can I become quicker? I'm going to send another thought. Can I be healthier? Can I create a greater impact? So these are thoughts. And if what you get back is insufficient, fired. We're going to replace you with a new thought, just like an army, because you only want thoughts as the army that are going to work for you, because this is you. If you are working for it, you've lost the game. So the commander in general is in charge of the thoughts, right? Then the thoughts then become the words, because think of it. A lot of people have a lot of thoughts and they have voices in their head. They have voices, that little voices say, oh, you should do this. Oh, you shouldn't do that. But if they are not in control, those voices will lead you astray. So the greater that we are in control of the beliefs, the thoughts, then the words we speak are as crystal, as clear as you can ever find. That they communicate and they hit you in your mind, they hit you in your heart, and they hit you to your core, all the way to your soul. So that when the words are then spoken, then you feel it to such a great degree, you bypass logic, you bypass feeling, and you go straight to action. That is a gift. Then from words, then you go to action, like we said. So the greater the action, the more we repeat the right action 10,000 times, we master it and it becomes a habit. Then when it becomes a habit, then we become virtuous, which means we are doing things for the right by humanity in all forms of life. So that is a virtue. And then the greater the virtue, the greater the destiny, the greater the fortune. That is why this formula can be implemented into any form of walk of life, into anything you do. And this is just the basic of it. I can talk about this forever because there's so much more to each stage, so much more to each segment. But I'm just giving you a short synopsis as to why this is so important. And the reason why it's called the hero in you is because everyone has that hero inside. They just don't have the formula. And I gave the formula so that you can then become your own hero, not for the egotistic point of view, but so that you can save yourself and then help save others' point of view.
I love that. Yeah, indeed. Where can they support this book, man? Where can they get them a copy at?
It's on Amazon, so you go Amazon, right? You'll get it faster there. And one thing I forgot to mention was the reason why it's called The Hero in You is because my Chinese name means hero.
Okay. Wow.
So I wanted to use that. But then share it. And that's why it's called that. That's why it's called that title, because I want everybody to utilize the same formula, but get greater results. We just need some training now.
Yeah. That's man. You someone who's like truly passionate about everything you're involved in, and it seemed like it was like that at a very instilled in you at a young age. For those who really listening right now, have some younger men, maybe at the house, maybe at the gym, maybe incarcerated, and they may not know how to develop those passions or develop peace within them. What would you advise them to being able to the step to take to being able to make that happen in their life and in that direction that they're heading?
So we have a free meditation on YouTube, on my YouTube, right? Herman Siu, you can check that out. That's a good start because that allows you to align to the peace and get rid of the distractions, right? So then we also have other sort of master classes that I've done that I train people more elevated meditation, right? So that's a very good point to make sure that we could get to really know us, right? So not allow anything to interfere with us. So that's why meditation is number one, right? Then we go into training. So some good training is push-ups, sit-ups, chin-ups. Are you getting your cardio? Are you doing a certain pace, I would like to call it, around a track or around a certain yard? What's your median pace? We time that pace. Then we say, let's add just a little bit more vigor onto that pace. How fast can you go and sustain that for how long? Then we add just a little bit more vigor. And then we look for our ceiling now. Then once we say we found our ceiling, then we maintain that ceiling for at least 30 days. And then once we maintain that 30 days with the meditation and this way of training, then we have now sustained and allowed the body to create endurance, that we can maintain that for so long. so that once we get and do that, we're no longer stuck in the head. We're no longer stuck in logic. We're no longer stuck in analytics or just numbers. We are learning how to merge the body back with the mind so that we can express and execute so we can get results. When you are so stuck in just the mind and logic and numbers, you will not get any results. You will always be afraid to put your neck on the line, and then nobody does anything else. So this is a good way to train that meditation, the training, the push-ups, the sit-ups, the chin-ups, right? Like I said, the tracking. And then you want to elevate what's my sustenance? What's my new number for sustenance? This is my ceiling for sustenance. And then once you have that, you do that for the 30 days. And then once you've completed that, then you want to say, can I add maybe just an extra minute or maybe just push it a little bit more? And then if you can't, then you stay at that level until you can in the next 2 weeks or the next 3 weeks, whatever it is for you. And then once you've done that, then you have to make sure that any single time you get stuck in the head saying, I don't know what to do, I am lost, I have writer's block, I have this block, you go straight into the same process, the meditation routine. That's what I do in the morning. Then I go straight into the exercise, martial arts training. Then I go straight into creating, because that is when there's nothing blocking me. That's when I create at the most beautiful level. So every time you notice that you have a blockage, do the same thing. You go into, like, maybe even pinch yourself just to wake up so you can meditate. Go into the training, do some push-ups, sit-ups, chin-ups. Every time before I get on a call, that's what I'm doing to make sure I'm in the zone. So that when you do that, you're not stuck up here in the mind. You're allowing your mind and body to merge so that they can perform at an elite level.
Powerful. I love that, man. And I wanted to give you some space and room, Herm, before we get out of here in a few minutes, just to share, man, on this platform, something you may have not shared in the interview before, or something you just haven't shared with anyone in such a long time. I'm gonna give you the space to do that.
Okay, so has anyone seen or known who Bruce Lee is? Has
Yes.
anyone watched a movie or watched a clip or watched something about him, right? So basically almost everyone knows who he is, right? So my father actually helped train him.
Mm.
And when my father was training with him and training him, a lot of people were at that time doing their very best to just get his time, doing his best, because that was when he was most popular, doing his best to get his, like, be in the same room almost, or just get to see him, right? So you saw people like Chuck Norris, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, NBA player. You saw all these big guys that want to just get a little piece because they wanted that greatness to rub off on them, right? So my father trained him and trained him. And basically there were certain things that he was a little set on that was not exactly completely free. And so my father trained me the way he thought Bruce Lee should have been trained, without the ego, without the flauntedness of what a movie would show, even though he may not be that in private life. But certain things, people would see that, and then that becomes the reputation or image of what they think the person is. And so for me, it was to maintain the level of humility, but then be trained at an elite level that maybe cannot be shared with the average person because they would do a lot of wrong to a lot of people. So when my father trained, it's from long time ago where we passed down the training methods of the Shaolin Temple, the training methods, the breathing, the exercise, the meditation, the training, the just everything to make sure that your mind and body is not in two separate places. And so when we train, it is to always ensure, Terrell, that the mind and the body should never be treated separately. The mind and body, last time we checked, are connected. And so that's why we have to be very careful not to fall under that trap, because when we fall under that trap, that's when mental illness will kick in. Because that is when the mind has no longer connected with the body's no longer connected with the mind, then physical illness will start to creep in. Now the mind is over here, the body's over here. How can they connect to heal now? How can they connect to get to the source of where the issue is? How can they connect to allow that to heal? Or let's get to the areas so we can begin the healing process. And so that is why I highly recommend, if everyone, don't stay stuck in your head. Don't stay stuck in analytics. Don't just stay stuck in just going in circles and circles in a hamster wheel. How about we allow ourselves now? Let's get busy. Let's get those push-ups in, those reps in, those sit-ups in. Let's get that running in. Let's get some training in, so that the mind is no longer the main commander where you are stuck. the mind is learning to merge together with the body balance, so that when they are a harmonious balance, the results can be achieved a lot quicker, a lot faster.
I love that. I love that. Interesting story too, man. Remarkable. I wanted to take some time to just give you some gratitude, Herm, for taking some time, man. I know you in Canada, devoting time to be on the show. Honestly, man, I really, really appreciate you sharing your story, man, sharing a lot of practical, a lot of disciplines, a lot of just insight, man, that anyone can implement into their life, from athlete to student to entrepreneur, you name it, into their life, that's going to help them live a healthy, healthy life and live their best life. If they just implement into their life daily, like you say, we only get one life to live. And, when we live it right, once is enough. And I think that it's been instilled into you as a young guy, to growing up and still remembering what your father taught you and being in your corner. I think that's amazing, because some young men, or a lot of young men, may not grow up and had their father by them. And for you to share that with them, if they may not have a relationship with their father, they can go ahead and try to rebuild and rekindle whatever may have been, split at that time and moment, or so like that. I just think that it's phenomenal, man. By you not just giving yourself this credit or anything of that nature, and then talking about the importance of humbleness as well. And I really want to give you your flowers while you're here, my good man. And thank you for really, really being here with us. And thank you for this new friendship with you, man. And I'm truly, truly moved and inspired by your message as well, because it's needed, man, especially in the times right now that we're living in this pandemic or so like that. I just really think it's amazing, man. So I just want to say thank you for being here and being present with us, Aaron.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. And like, I'm here for you. I'm here for everyone, right? You just reach out. That's what we do. We want to make the world a better place, right? So we exist to make the world a better place. You just let us know how you want us to. We're here for you, right? So that's why we've built a community. That's why we've built all of this and doing this, because we want to make that world a better place, and we're showing it.
Yes, absolutely. When it's all said and done, what do Herman Siu want to be mostly remembered for?
That he made the greatest impact on humanity, that he was able to help raise the consciousness of humanity, that he was able to save the souls of humanity.
Powerful. Herm, you can leave them off with your website, your social media, and everything else they can connect with. Maybe some exciting projects you may have coming up this summer, this fall, 2020.
Yes.
You name it.
So yes, there's the book on Amazon. You can follow me on Instagram, herman.siu. Look me up on Facebook, Herman Siu, right? Website, hermansiu.com. So you can just look me up, and I mean, don't just take my word for it. Just look at the results from all the people we're helping and changing their lives with, right? So I just want to make sure that everyone who is listening, or maybe you only heard a small snippet, do yourself a little bit of justice and really listen to what we discuss, listen to maybe a video that I've done or something, and allow yourself to really hear what's being shared and said, because a lot of people, they only listen to 5 seconds or 2 seconds and then they're turned off. Really allow yourself to really listen to what is being shared, because that will maybe help allow yourself now to hear other greater things versus just our own voice.
Indeed. It's powerful, man. That's my man, man. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this message today. I hope this interview really, really moved you in the right direction. And please, please share with a friend. Go ahead and subscribe to the Inspire Before We Expire on iTunes. Leave us a review. Tell us what really intrigued you most. Like Herm said, a lot of people listen to interviews and they just listen to 10 minutes out because it may be an hour, but sometimes you never know that information can change your situation. So you got to take some time to really understand that this is what's needed. And this is going to help transform you to really living your best life while helping others around you as well. That's what it's about, man, saving humanity. So guys, I'm Terrell Sumter. That's my guy, Mr. Herman Siu. I mean, this guy's amazing, man. Very humble, man, at that too as well. So Inspire Before We Expire, and we're out. Woo!